Axons Unleashed.
Hey, my name's Robbie. I'm being joined by Dan and Tamara. Welcome to the episode 3 of Axons Unleashed. Morning, Dan. Tamara, how you doing?
Woo, good morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we are again. What a wonderful, wonderful morning down here on the Gold Coast. It's bright and sunny outside, and I don't know, did you get to see the water this morning, mate?
Yes, Tamara and I have now successfully moved into our new apartment there at the Q1. So certainly living 66 levels above the ants on the ground, which is the humans walking around, is an unusual feeling so far.
I've been giving Dane, our resident surfer, a surf report each morning. So
The daily surf report.
that's right. Tammy's surf report coming your way.
Hey, don't give RT any more ideas, because that might be like the next little branch that he launches down. Goes, we can create a surf channel.
Unlikely.
And water sports are not really his thing.
That's right.
As we sort of spoke about on the previous episode, that we try to keep Robbie away from the water these days. So
Yeah, so let's just give everyone a quick little update. So episode 1 was all about how Axon, the business, started, why we started this podcast, and just a little intro into sort of who we are and how we sort of help people create wealth in their lives using property. Then, of course, episode 2 was all about Dan starting to join the business, and you got that fateful phone call from Tamara about, hey, Robbie smashed his leg. He's jumped off the back of the boat up in North Queensland fishing, and I was then basically in and out of hospital for the next 6 months.
In a wheelchair.
And Axon pretty much come to a grinding halt. So that's where we finished up the last couple of episodes. And I tell you what, if you haven't listened to those episodes or watched it on YouTube, ladies and gents, go back and do it now, because it'll give you a fantastic start point. And there were like lots and lots of little gems, some of them not very comfortable to speak about. And we're going to cover some more off of that today as well, about how we got to this sort of point.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've really been looking forward to this episode, because I didn't even know the true background to exactly what it was. I just saw sort of a title on the page, and then I'm like, what actually happened, guys? Can you tell me before we actually go and do a podcast about this? So we obviously had to go back and explore this in the lead up. But I mean, one of the reasons why it's probably a lesser known story is because these days, one of the big successes that you see from Axon is like, we're out there everywhere from a social media presence perspective, and we often get told, Tammy, like, someone is chasing me around the internet. I can't get away from Axon. I've been trapped by the algorithm, right?
I love a good retargeting strategy.
That's it. And I mean, Tammy, you as the sort of the marketing director amongst one of many, many hats you actually wear within the business, like, that's pretty much been led by you from the recent times. But if we take a walk down memory lane from that perspective, it wasn't always this way, right? It hasn't always been, as probably most people have seen over the last 18 months, 2 years. So back in the old days, when the business was just getting started from the media room downstairs, you were in charge of marketing, right?
Yeah, so setting everything up, and I had a fair bit of marketing experience, but I'd also mainly been a real student of marketing. Like, I'd just involved myself in as much education in that side of things as I could. So very much self-taught. But yeah, I was able to sort of get my hands on things and make my way around things and get us set up and started, and yeah.
Yeah. And what about you, RT? How did you enjoy watching Tammy sort of fulfill that role in the very early days of the business?
Yeah, it was really, really great, because she left a really successful career as a flight attendant for Qantas to come up to Brisbane, and then sort of come and join our life. We'd try to get a transfer up there, but Mr. Joyce, if you're listening, you weren't doing any transfers up to Brisbane at that time. So she's like, right, jam at Qantas. I'm going to come up to Brizzy and basically start our life up there. So look, probably by her own admission, Tam was a bit lost, and she didn't really have a new direction and a new passion. So you jumped headfirst into learning all about Facebook ads and Instagram stories, and like this is back in 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
So, Instagram had only been around for a very, very short period of that time, and yeah, she dived right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting to hit your straps then. So from there, this is where the story starts off, right? Tammy's been relatively successful, been self-taught. She's moved from the other side of the country up here to be able to support you, and we've got this new business endeavour that she's neck deep in. What happened next? And I mean, the title of this is going to be talking about how you effectively sacked your wife from your business that you are co-founders of. But How did that actually came to be? And I mean, I'll throw to you, Tam, I suppose, to take us through the beginning of that story.
Sure. So we went to a business conference in the Gold Coast, and there was a marketing guy. There was a couple of really key speakers up there, but one of them was a marketing and branding specialist. And we listened to his little spiel, and afterwards Robbie said to me, I just think we need to stop playing small, and we need to get someone who's a professional at this. And essentially went storming up there and grabbed his business card and said, mate, we need to book an appointment.
I was excited, you know what I mean, because they had like a copywriter, they had a graphic artist, they had someone who could do our Facebook ads. It was, you know, seemed to have years and years experience working in the industry. So I was like, you know what, if we do have visionaries of taking this business to the next level, then let's see what a proper professional marketing firm might be able to do for us.
Yeah, so I guess I was a little bit, I don't know, I lost a bit of confidence at the time, because I kind of felt like, well, if Robbie doesn't believe in what I'm doing, then maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'm not good enough for this. So that was a bit of a blow, I guess. And so I kind of just took a back seat in the business, and I was doing, you know, the admin, the accounts, the small amount of HR that we have compared to what we have now. And just, yeah, taking a real back seat in the overall business. And
as you would appreciate, Dan, I was completely oblivious to this. I didn't know that basically saying, all right, honey, you're sacked from the marketing department. We're going to get this other firm to come in there and take over it all. I just thought I was doing the right thing by the business by, you know, throwing some money at a problem and getting professionals in there that could do it all. Because, you know, we're very well aware that just because you know how to write an Instagram ad doesn't mean you know how to write a headline or copy or the little summary of what the, you know, particular spiel is, or doesn't necessarily mean you're a graphic design artist. So having all of those traits in one person is very rare to find. So I guess I was just attracted to the opportunity of working with a business that was going to provide that to us. Again, completely oblivious to my wife as the co-founder that what I was actually doing was sacking her from the business.
Well, it was a real passion of mine at the time. Like, I was really enthused by marketing, and I loved it. And I was, you know, watching everything I could, going through so many webinars and trainings, and getting stuck into the Facebook ad side of things, which actually changes all the bloody time. So yeah, just like, it was a pretty big shock, but yeah, I kind of just, okay, it is what it is. So yeah, just started being in the background and trying to work out what things I was kind of going to start doing. But then it wasn't too long before we realised that they weren't really getting results for us.
That's a really nice way of putting it.
Well, we didn't give the disclaimer that this is an MA 15 plus
I haven't
podcast.
sworn yet.
No, you
We've
haven't.
been going for four or 5 minutes,
Well,
ladies and gents. You probably got your teenage daughters listening to this.
Well, it's a bit deeper than normal. Like, normally we're jovial and upbeat, but we're obviously talking about a relatively sensitive topic where you've turned around and sacked your wife from the business that you started like 3 months earlier, which, you know, arguably it's going to touch some raw nerves from that perspective. So there's some sensitivities about it. But, I mean, Tammy, how did you feel then? Because as you just alluded to then, a few months down the track, sort of we're progressing forward. And if I remember this correctly, it was almost like all hands went off. It was like, these guys are the expert. They've got their copywriter. They've got every single person that we need in the team. They should now be driving this forward from both a strategy and an execution perspective.
Absolutely. And I think that was something, looking back now, that's a huge lesson for us. Like, we would never let someone take over the strategy fully of our business. Like, we will definitely have our finger on the pulse and give our own direction, because we know our clients better than they do. We do. And at the end of the day, they had a great long-term strategy. So they were really focusing on blogs, on SEO, on
that search engine optimization for everybody out there.
Lead magnet to get an email address. You can send a follow-up email and nurture them along the sequence. I'm like, I'm like, you know, we spoke about, Tam, we need results now, dude. We don't want to talk to people now. We don't. I haven't got 12 months up my sleeve for someone to see the 50th email they've read and go, oh, fuck, there you go. Fuck, let's now contact these guys.
So I suppose from that perspective, what you're talking about, RT, is that because you'd started the business, let's call it on a shoestring budget, like you got moved along relatively quickly. Follow that in episode 1. But then a few months later, they're like, let's implement a strategy that's going to take like 12 months or 2 years until you actually start seeing results.
Yeah. Like we were getting, I think, 6 or 7 people onto one of their webinars that they were doing, and we were spending quite a bit of money that we didn't really have at that time just to get no results. And so I kind of, Robbie said to me, can you just have a look at what's going on? And I ended up jumping into the back end of our Facebook, and I realized that they had been setting up all of our accounts and ads and collateral, our images, everything in their own account. And that means we didn't own anything that we had just been paying for months.
So it's effectively the same as like them owning all of your intellectual property.
From a marketing sense, yeah.
Yeah. So
How did that make you feel when you found that out?
oh my God.
It was a bit of a red flag straight away, wasn't it?
Straight away. And I said to them, we need all this transferred. We need this back. This needs to be in our account. And they said, yeah, we can do that. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized you can't do that. You can't. Once it's in their account, you can share it, but you don't own it. So to me, that was a huge red flag.
Or if we were going to switch it across, effectively Facebook takes it all the way back to the start. So any likes and any engagement, any sort of collateral or brand equity that you build in some of the messaging that you paid money for just gets wiped all the way back to zero, and we're like literally back to square one. So
anyone with their own business and getting outside help, then I would definitely recommend that they use your own account, that, you know, all your ads, everything, or the audiences that they're creating, that retargeting, it's all in your own account. So that was a huge lesson as well, that, you own all of your own stuff that you're paying for.
A point to note just here as well is that we, very, very different to what we're doing now, we had 2 segments of the market we were talking to. We were talking to mum and dad investors or non-defence members, and of course we were talking to sort of defence members as well, talking about your ADF housing entitlements. So it wasn't clear cut. There was a very multifaceted approach. I used to call it the whole grab a whole lot of mud, throw it at the wall, and hope some of it sticks, which is a very, very poor marketing methodology to undertake. But that's effectively what they were doing for us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So was it about then you asked me to come back?
Well, I think when we got to the point where got 6 or 7 people, attending one of our webinars, one of the things we also realised is that, understandably, and look, I spent 11 years as a SOCOM officer with protected identity status, with no social media accounts. I always had a dummy email, 1234@hotmail.com, and my phone number was fucking 0000999, whatever it was. So you never actually leave your details, and understandably, a lot of defence members are like that.
Yeah, so when they were filling in their details for our webinar, then we'd get all of that. We'd get the fake emails.
We're like, oh, okay, so we've had like 20 people register, but then there's 3 people online, but we can't even send an email with a new link for the people there because it's all like a fake account. And of course, I sort of jacked up a little bit, and I'm like, why? I don't care about getting people's emails. And I remember having a bit of a stand-up, tiff with yourself, Tamara, and also the other marketing guy at the other firm. They're like, no, but it goes, marketing's all about getting their email address and we must focus on the email address. I'm like, I don't give a fuck about the email address. I want eyeballs on the screen. And I think, and you'd certainly joined us by this time.
Yeah,
Dan.
absolutely.
You were watching all this go by.
I regularly remember the 4 people attending the webinars as we were using them, and then sort of hiding behind that barrier where we really controlled the environment. And yeah, it was like you'd sit there for hours in the preparation for this, creating all of the content that you need to pass on to people. And I mean, anyone who's watched our Facebook Live in the last 2 years, there wasn't a drastic amount of different information in the webinar versus the Facebook Live. And so you all know exactly how valuable that information is, right? So it was a little bit disheartening with the amount of work that went into the preparation and delivery of that to know that it wasn't being received by anyone. And from a business standpoint, you guys would appreciate more than most that if you don't have any clients coming in the door, you don't have any income. And if you don't have an income, there's no business.
Well, as I say, the world can only run on love and pixie dust so much, and cash is ultimately the oxygen for any business.
Yeah,
So,
cash
you're
doesn't need
absolutely
to be
right.
your driving force, but that's what makes the wheels spin. That's what makes the wheels, turn, and you get some momentum. You need that cash to fund your marketing, to fund your staff, to fund the business. So
I think it was sort of maybe late 2017-ish is when that sort of data breach with Facebook and Cambridge Analytica came along. And that's like a bit of a red flag moment for me. I'm like, all right, now this has just made the problem even worse.
Yeah, no
I'd
one's going to
actually
give their
been-
email up.
I'd actually been saying to the boys to start doing Facebook Lives
Oh, yeah,
when
let's
you're out on the road.
Let's
so
talk
you'd
about
be-
that quickly. We'll come back to that data breach in a minute. Not
You-
our data breach.
Well,
by
it
the
was
way.
like, this was almost like a perfect storm, that this all happened sort of concurrently within a couple of weeks of each other, so it's very relevant. Let's cover off, Tam, where we're talking about the whole idea of the Facebook Live, because
Yes. So Facebook Live had just come out, and I was seeing my own results with that, and just I knew we had to be on it. We had to be on it. That's where the algorithm was pushing all the viewers. So I said, right, jump on when you're out at site, jump on a Facebook Live, and I'd be sitting at home on the Facebook waiting for them to go live. I'm like, messaging, when are you going live? When are you going live? I want to be on and see it.
You guys can't see the video right now, but Dan and I are wincing in the background going, oh, we were so scared. We were
Oh,
shitting
You're like,
ourselves.
I'm not ready. The lighting wasn't that great. We weren't prepared.
It was too windy.
oh, that-
Excuse.
it was
I
a
hadn't
truck
done my
driving in
hair.
the background. That wasn't me, by the way. There's my individual hair that I have left was not me being too worried about
A
that.
little bit like we discussed on episode 1 where I was so shit in front of camera and I was like literally reading off a bloody teleprompter compared to now where we just poke a camera in our face.
was
whenever
Well,
we
I
need.
kind of did poke a camera in your face that first time. So we were on the way home from a lunch with one of our builders, and we'd had a couple of beverages.
I think there was a maxi taxi involved.
It
in
was.
this.
Yes, so we were in the back with Simo, and I said, right, I'm going to show you how this live works. I'm going to show you what a Facebook Live is. And I jumped on my own page, my own profile, and went live. And we just absolutely flapped off for about 5 minutes.
But I was just amazed that everyone was on there going, hey guys, like people were commenting. We were then interacting with people literally live.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's called live. But like on the spot, I'm like, this is actually fucking really cool. And then
Yeah.
I swore for the first time, like, whoops, are you allowed to swear on a Facebook Live?
We only recently watched it back again. It was quite funny. But you were like, oh my God. And then within half an hour, we had about 300 views or something. And I said, there you go. Like, have a look at that. That was just us talking about absolutely nothing to my own friends.
And then all of a sudden we've got like 10 times the amount of people that have ever even seen some of the stuff that we'd paid a lot of money for sort of people to get there. So that was a bit of a penny drop moment for us. We're like, all right, we should give this a go.
You should listen to your wife.
Yeah.
Once in a while, you should listen.
So
to
it
live.
was sort of the thing, and that's why this episode's called I sacked my wife from the business but then begged her back. So it was just like a bit of a, as you said before, Dan, a bit of a perfect storm about this happened and then the data breach through Facebook happened. I'm like, right, fuck it. I don't care about the blogs. I don't care about the lead magnet. I don't care about the email address. Let's fucking get rid of this other crew. Honey, can you please come back to the business and run all of our marketing for us? I'm sorry, I didn't realise that I sacked you from the business. I'm now sort of giving you a proper apology in front of the whole world.
Ladies and
This is
gents,
probably more of an apology now than what I ever got.
I was about to say, I think this is the first time he actually apologised for
Yeah,
this.
the S word is not my strongest suit. So yeah, it was a terrible thing, and I sort of promised everyone at the end of episode 2, I'm like, make sure you listen to this one because I stuffed it up again and nearly made
at
it
the
all sort of fall
time,
on its face.
When you did ask me that, my confidence was still that low that I was like, I don't even know if I can do this anymore. I haven't really had my finger on the pulse for the last few months. Things change
They
in
do.
marketing so fast. So I was just so worried that I'd forgotten everything. And so I said, all right, I'll come back just for 3 months and get it back on track.
So then we did our first Facebook Live, and I guess I remember, Dan, that because we didn't have a full studio set up, we bought like our own set of lights. Is that at the same time like, let's get a big TV screen, let's put a PowerPoint presentation up there, let's stand in front of so I saw someone else on, I think it was might have been on a Webinar Jam how-to video. And I'm like, fuck, I can see some American guy bloody standing in front of a big screen. Why don't we do that? So let's literally...
I think the iPhone was held up on a stack of boxes.
Yeah, it was.
Too.
I was just about to say. And then Dan as a mechanical engineer went, right, how can we now configure it somewhere where we can get this going? But we needed the slides behind us because we still weren't super smart about it.
But we also wanted the slides in front of us. So what we ended up having was the dining room table, and we had a coffee machine, the old coffee machine at that office. The box was still in the house.
Yeah.
So we put the box on top of the table, and then on top of that,
It was a foam, like HelloFresh or one of those.
Yeah, another box on top of it. And then I mounted my Thunderbolt monitor. So, like, these monitors cost like $800 or $1,000 a hit on top of these two unstable boxes. So we could get the right angle of the camera and also be able to read the slides in front of us as well as having them behind us. So that really could have gone downhill really, really fast. But fortunately, no one wobbled the table in exactly the wrong way at that point in time.
It was such a little backyard operation set up now, like compared to the proper full-on studio setup that we have, even the one we're sitting in here now, coming to you live and uninterrupted from Whitehorse Studios here on the Gold Coast, run by a Navy veteran as well, which is bloody awesome. So we've really, really come a long way, but it is good to reflect. And, you know, for those that have only been following us for a little while, we're like, wow, look at the proper setup and studio and everything they've got. This is a bloody really professional organisation. Damn straight it is, but it didn't start like that.
No.
So we started doing Facebook Lives and we're like, right, that's it. We're not doing webinars anymore. Let's not collect anyone's bloody email address because no one's going to give it to us anyway. And let's now start doing Facebook Lives. And that was one of the things that really, really started to solidify our place in the market, because no one else no one that you and I knew, Dan, was doing Facebook Lives in the property space. Sure as shit, no one in the defence property space was doing Facebook Lives either.
Well, the Defence Force was terrified of Facebook.
Yes, true.
To a degree, there's still there's some pretty significant social media policies out there for the Defence Force as well, which is currently in the media, which is lots of fun. But I mean, at the end of the day, when you take that, it's another leap of faith almost. You're like, let's just have a crack at this and see what happens.
Yeah, but we're still talking to mum and dad investors or non-defence clients, and then we're obviously doing our defence stuff. So in the meantime, or have you got it on the little thing? What's the next part of it?
Yeah, so we were still talking to both audiences, but I think what we decided is what we're going to do is by the end of this year, we're just going to have a real red hot crack at this. And we brought Tammuz back in, and Tammy sort of said, we're going to do this, and we're going to see what the results sort of end up being from that perspective. But how were you feeling in the lead up to doing that first Facebook Live, Tammy? Because you've gone from being in control to having to take your hands completely off the reins to being begged back, and now kind of having the weight of the world lumped onto you to be like, here's this thing that you've been like, this is the horse that you've been backing for like months.
Don't talk about backing horses.
She's bloody good at it.
Basically it was a lot of pressure because I'd been pushing this Facebook Live thing for a while. And just, I wanted it to work. I had to make it work. But the confidence was kind of at an all-time low. So it actually took probably about 6 weeks in. I looked at all the data, and I'm very data-driven, very analytics-driven. Anyway, so it got to the point where I looked at the data and I was like, I've just performed better than this previous company has in 6 months. The 6 months that they were with us, 6 weeks, I've managed to turn it all around, including how many page views, likes, just a full range of stuff that we were working on. Engagements, just speaking to we were converting better. We were talking to the better, more of our proper audience and the people that connect with us. And so, I guess, what do we say? Competence equals confidence.
Yes.
So you got, obviously you knew what you were doing, but then you saw the actual results, which probably returned your confidence to you there as well. It did.
So, that was a good moment for me at the time because I was like, okay, I've got this. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to save the business.
How are you feeling, RT? Because, that's got to be, a proud husband moment where you're you ate a little bit of humble pie, and we saw that a second ago. But like, how were you actually feeling on the inside when you saw Tammy starting to deliver these awesome results?
Well, it was a bit bittersweet, to be fair, because now she was back in the business. We were back into living together, working together, sleeping together, eating together, going out together. Like, it was like everything was basically part of our life there. So, that had its own challenges from that perspective. But yeah, immensely proud. Yeah, of course. It's fantastic. I couldn't imagine doing it any other way now. Even though 99.9% of people I speak to, I'm like, how would it make you feel if you had to like do all that stuff with your husband or wife? They're like, no fucking way. Even in a proper loving relationship. So, it has its challenges, but it's bloody satisfying as well. But I was just about to go into the next thing. One thing that she was pushing you and I to both do, Dan, was like content, more videos, more videos. Now, as you guys discovered during episode 2, I'd already smashed my leg by this stage, and I was in a wheelchair and a moon boot. And I was like, so you and I, you weren't in front of the camera at this
Dan's
stage,
laughing
Dan.
now.
You were still behind the camera.
I remember filming content with Robbie with his busted up leg when he was just getting back on his feet.
And
he would get up.
Back on his foot.
Yeah, get back up on his foot. He would stand up like on one foot beside that big TV that we spoke about before. He would record a 30-second snippet of video and like collapse in pain shortly afterwards.
It was fucking horrendous.
And he'd sit down on the seat, and it'd probably take him 2 or 3 minutes to sort of rekindle his sort of flame there as well. So
because I had the big moon boot on, I was standing on a phone book on one leg, because otherwise I would have been on the tilt. So yeah, well, there was a lot of resilience and grit and determination that we had to show, because Tamara's like, right, we're now starting to get an audience. I need fresh videos. I need fresh content. Get it all done, boys. Like, so sure enough, we set up the Povo cameras, and we set up the stands and get the coffee machine box out again. Like, it was so shit back then. And again, Dan, you did such a fantastic job in making sure, because I couldn't do it, mate. I was in a wheelchair. I was literally talk about that. That wasn't humble pie. That was like fucking humble pavlova. I want to contribute as much as I can. I couldn't say pie again. I wanted to contribute as much as I could, but I was fucking stuck in a wheelchair, and I was like...
It kind of just goes to show that, like, people probably think of us now that our business is, that we've got it so easy. We're aligned with our clients. Leads coming in, we've got a great following, we've got some amazing fans, but it was not always the case. We started from nothing. We started from absolutely nothing.
Twice.
Yeah.
Because you had to start again after we lost all the info.
That many hurdles, the amount of things that we've gone through, especially in our startup phase, like, it kind of, I just think if anyone is starting a business out there, they need to know that kind of stuff, that it's not smooth sailing. You have to go through the ups and downs when you're starting a business.
Yeah, and I suppose even though it seems really obvious in hindsight, right, one of the key lessons we spoke about today is not putting blind faith in someone else to be able to go and achieve what would be your strategy and what's in your brain from that perspective. Like, How has that influenced as we've gone forward as an organisation? I suppose some of the decisions or the thoughts that you have, Tammy, and then RT, I'll come back to you.
Well, I think the first thing is that we know our audience better than anyone else. So especially if it's a non-ADF sort of company or a partner that we're working with, we know our clients better than. So we knew that they don't like sharing their data with us, right? So we were the ones saying to the marketing company, we don't need their email addresses. They're not giving it to us anyway. They're protecting their own identity. So let's work around what our target market needs. So yes, I just definitely think knowing your customer, knowing your avatar inside out, we knew them better than anyone could, even the professionals or so-called professionals. Know your customer and believe in that.
Yep.
What about you, RT? What was some of the key takeaways of what you're never going to do again, or what your sort of lessons learned, I suppose?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a no-brainer that putting blind faith in people is not the right thing to do, and chucking money at a problem doesn't solve it either. You still need to be able to engage, you need to be able to direct, you need to be able to provide that vision and accountability for any service provider that comes into your life. And it's certainly something that we've introduced with our clients as well, that, we've now got a really decent flow, because all of this, the cumulative effect of the last 30 odd minutes of us talking about how we got to this point, was meant that we now started to get some traction, and we now started to talking to a few people, and we now started to, you know, the transition from the messaging and the attraction about why would someone would want to even come and talk to a bunch of veterans about using property to secure their financial future. You and I now started having multiple conversations with clients. But of course, we also needed to start putting in a bit of a filtering mechanism as well. So I guess that was the next problem we faced, was like, sweet, all this awesome work that Tammy's now done for us is starting to work, and all the videos we're watching and all the shitty little jokes we're telling on Facebook Lives, etc., was starting to have an effect on people. Now we certainly didn't have too many people coming in the door, but we needed to put a filtering mechanism in place.
Well, people were going straight from our online training, our webinars, and then subsequently the Facebook Lives straight to a coaching session. They were able to book, straight into your calendar for a couple of hours, and a lot of a fair amount of the time, people weren't ready.
Yeah, so we sort of created, obviously, this entered then the discovery session. So there's probably a few of you listening right now that's like, I never had a discovery session. Did I miss out on this? But from that perspective, if you're still one of our clients now, you didn't really need a discovery session. But the idea was to make sure that people were actually ready and committed. And I suppose the number one thing that we have as the rule is completely motivated to actually go and do something from that perspective.
Just being deliberate, not desperate as well. Like just making sure that these people were a fit for us, that we were a fit for them as well. You know, we were never chasing a sale. We were never chasing, you know, like the next client just because. It was always because we wanted and needed to help them, and they needed our help. It wasn't, if we can't help them, if it's, say they wanted to get into flipping old houses, that's not our business model, and we're not going to push people into that sort of, into our method if that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah, because we started to get some real traction about people seeing us on Facebook Live. Dan, I remember you and I were like, let's not just do the discovery session via phone. Let's do it via FaceTime. So we got to speak to people, you know, face to face, literally straight away. And that's now, you know, followed us for the last couple of years, and it's, you know, made a massive difference to be able to have
We've
that.
even converted Deb.
Yeah, that's right. There's so much communication that goes on between people that's not non-verbal. So we've got to sort of cover off on that straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like that's kind of, I suppose, where we sort of end up today, as we've implemented the discovery session from that perspective. And there's a few more things that need to go under the bridge before we get to sort of the axon of the current iteration that everyone can see and feel now. Tammy, I suppose the biggest lessons learnt that you think Robbie probably missed there was probably don't go ahead and turf your wife out of the business, right?
Well, I think he didn't do it with the malice that it comes out to be. It was definitely, he thought that it was the best thing for the business. And like you said, you know, having this one-stop shop with copywriters and graphic designers, and, you know, I can totally understand that. But yeah, putting our blind faith and trusting someone else with our clients was just, we should have still kept the reins on. Yeah,
absolutely. From a long-term perspective, always acting in the best interests of Axon and its clients from that, and its community from that perspective is always going to be at the forefront of our mind. But I suppose even though today's session had a real marketing theme behind it as well, and there was a lot of technical sort of terms that you were speaking about there, Tammy.
I hope not too many. Sorry.
No, I think it came through well, but I suppose it also starts to talk now about Tammy more as the entrepreneur who's got her own lane that she's been working in and sort of starting to really specialise herself from a women in business perspective as well. So it's starting to enlighten us as to where we've been coming from and where we're heading to from that point in time as well.
Yeah, all right. As we sort of wrap up this one here, it's been a sensational little episode. Thank you, Tammy, for sharing your details with us. But the problems don't stop there. You know, as we transition into now episode 4, we still had 2 different segments of the market. We still weren't ultimately talking to those people, Tammy, as you just said, that were the very best fit for us. So make sure you stay tuned and listen into episode 4, because we go even deeper into how we got to a point where we're now only just speaking to our perfect clients. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.